What's going on, everybody? RJ Ochoa here from SB Nation's bloggingtheboys.com. Hope all is well wherever you are. We hope you're happy, safe, healthy, and that you are having a fantastic weekend. Today is Saturday, March 12th, 2022. We normally don't jump on or have any kind of live streams or really anything like this on the weekend, but it is the weekend directly preceding free agency in the NFL. The new league year is upon us. Monday, March 14th begins the legal tampering window in the NFL, and Wednesday, March 16th is when the new league year officially begins, and pens can hit dotted lines, etc., etc. And so in the lead up to the new league year, we have seen a handful of NFL teams make some moves. Again, things that cannot technically become official until the new league year happens. The Dallas Cowboys on Friday had a little bit of a purge, releasing some players, kicker Greg Zuerlein among them. And on Saturday, they finally did it. The Dallas Cowboys traded wide receiver Amari Cooper to the Cleveland Browns. It is an emergency miniature Blog of the Boys roundtable, so we gathered up some analysts to discuss the trade, the fallout, what we think is going to happen next. So my name's RJ Ochoa, and I'm joined today, going in clockwise order, by Aidan Davis. You see him and you hear him at Blog of the Boys, bloggingtheboys.com, the Blog of the Boys podcast universe. This is the case for all of our panelists. Down the bottom right corner is Dan Rogers. Bottom left corner is Tony Catalina, who is a fan of the Boston Red Sox for who knows what reason, but baseball is back, and that really is truly what is important. But so, Dan, I'll start with you. The Dallas Cowboys sending Amari Cooper and their 2022 sixth-round pick, which is their pick this year, in exchange for a fifth-round pick for the Browns. That's the true prize, so to speak, and Cleveland's sixth-round pick. So they're swapping sixth-round picks with the Browns. They're netting the fifth-round pick. They're giving up Amari Cooper. But notably, the Cleveland Browns are absorbing all of Amari's contract, which does clear $16 million in salary cap space for the Cowboys immediately.
Yeah, it does. And, if that's what the Cowboys were wanting to do, then they did just that. I think all of us were hoping if Cooper, was to be traded, that we would get a little bit more back in compensation. And I was very surprised to see that wasn't the case. It was basically for nothing. I mean, not to say that, fifth round draft picks are nothing, but for the Cowboys, they have been in recent years. And so it's just, I don't know. It's a next to nothing move as far as trading. So I don't know, for any of us that really value what Cooper brings to this team, this is a very sad day, and it's can't be happy about it. So I guess I'm just a little bit depressed about this whole thing.
Aidan, Amari wound up playing in 56 games for the Cowboys, helped them win 2 division titles, a playoff game in that first season that he was a part of the team in 2018. This era, it's a small era, but still an era nonetheless, has really been defined by him and what he's been able to do in the passing game. Certainly we've seen Dak Prescott's evolution happen almost directly as a result of Amari's arrival. So with Amari goes an important chapter in Dallas Cowboys history, to Dan's point about it being a sad day. Are you only sad? Are you also frustrated? Are those the same emotions for you? Or are you at all relieved about having this salary cap space? Where are you at?
No, I'm not relieved whatsoever. I will say the only emotion I'm feeling other than just rage and anger is somewhat curiosity. I wrote about this on Blogging the Boys. With Cooper leaving, we are going to get to see what a Cooper-less offense means for Dak. Obviously, we saw 2018 and half 2017 where it didn't look pristine. Now that Cooper's leaving, I guess we get to see what Dak can do without Cooper. But why put Dak into that situation? That's my thing. Like, sure, I'm interested in seeing how it plays out, but why would you put Dak in that situation? There's no reason for it.
Yeah, Tony, again, I mean, it's not worth saying we climbed the mountain if you purposefully, jumped off of it just to get to the bottom to say you climbed it. But that's kind of what the Cowboys are doing now. They do have CeeDee Lamb, and there are a lot of rumors and reports that they're going to ultimately bring back Michael Gallup, and sign him to a long-term deal. They did place the franchise tag on Dalton Schultz, so seemingly there won't be a ton of loss on offense as far as skill positions are concerned. But you've lost arguably the best skill position player for the Cowboys in Amari Cooper. And what's more is you got peanuts for him, as Dan mentioned. And again, the Browns are taking the entire contract. That was the true total motivation from the Joneses. We've heard that several times. There's only so much pie. You have to have enough slices to give it to everybody. Do you consider that a win Tony, in that the Cowboys have now alleviated $16 million in salary cap space at the moment. And again, we're streaming this live just before 2 p.m. Central Time on Saturday, March 12th. At the moment, Over the Cap has the Cowboys just under $20 million with salary cap space.
Ultimately, that's why you trade a true number one wide receiver, Amari Cooper, and only net, a 5th-round pick out of it. Essentially, is the obligation to take on the contract. Now, if this was we had to eat some of it, or the Cowboys had to, keep some of that on the books, it's highway robbery at that point. I don't love the trade as it is. But you're going to sit here and tell us the number one motivation that what the Cowboys wanted to do is to free up $16 million in cap space to do whatever they, so to speak. And hopefully there is some plans to divvy up that pie, so to speak, in a way to improve this team, because on the surface level, looking at the way this team is built right now, they just got worse for the sake of money. So hopefully they can find a way to make me feel a little better about it, honestly.
Dan, in that sense, there is this sort of if proposition hanging over the Cowboys. If they let's make up names. If they sign Bobby Wagner, if they sign Von Miller, if they do these other sort of things, then maybe there is this kind of, okay, we didn't love that move, but at least you went down a path. You're in this moment where we feel like you have this roster that you just weakened by trading Amari Cooper. But if they don't do that, Dan, if all this was done to keep around the likes of Michael Gallup and Dalton Schultz, and if Randy Gregory walks and they pay Dorrance Armstrong, whatever the case may be, if it's just for that, then does that cement this as a failure of an overall move?
No, I don't think so. I mean, a lot of people they have high expectations for the Cowboys to go out and make moves in free agency, and I don't know why we do, because we know that's not going to happen. But for me, like players like Michael Gallup and Dalton Schultz were not guys I was expecting to return. So in a way, the Cowboys are making moves. They're making moves in the sense of they're keeping their own. And, maybe they're just wanting, I know it sounds kind of silly, but maybe they are wanting to kind of spread the pie around a little more, so where they can have, more weapons, more options, just greater overall depth. If there's anything from this freed up space from this deal that I can appreciate, it's the Cowboys being able to use that money to secure the player like the Dorrance Armstrongs, and who knows what they're going to do with Randy Gregory or Jaron Kershaw. We'd love to see him come back. So I think those are still positives, because to me those were not players I was expecting not to be a part of this team going forward. And the Cowboys going to have to just keep building to the draft. So I mean, and what Aidan said, it makes me curious in that regard. Like, what's that kind of team going to look like, where you don't have an elite number one anymore, but you have a bunch of other guys, and as we saw last year, the way Dak was targeting players, it's, he kind of likes to spread it around, and we weren't getting good value for Amari Cooper anyway. So, I guess we'll see what it's going to, turn out to be.
My dog is in the background, really upset. Big Amari fan, Little Bear is. So it's either that or the FedEx truck outside. I lean towards the Amari thing. Aidan, so now we're in this situation that the Cowboys have completely and totally, put upon themselves. We don't want to hear Jerry Jones or Stephen Jones in mid-November, when they've put up 13 points and a loss to the Giants, about how they don't have the skill position players to kind of make moves happen. So in that sense, though, they are changing something, and that was something that Jerry kind of intimated was on the horizon, that last year wasn't enough. They wanted to change. We didn't really see any change as far as the coaching staff was concerned. They returned both Kellen Moore, to many people's chagrin, and Dan Quinn, which was a really, really pleasant surprise. So no changes to the coaching staff. On Friday, as mentioned, they cut Greg Zuerlein. They injured waive Blake Jarwin. He may return. He's probably going to miss the start of the season anyway with his unique hip injury. There was clearly, and I think we all agree, everybody who pays any attention to this has seen, there was clearly some sort of, call it a vendetta if you want, but some very specific reason that the Cowboys wanted to move on from Amari Cooper, because they could have kept him. They could have restructured him. He's still extremely young, but they wanted to move on from him. Is there some bone that you can throw the Cowboys in saying, maybe it's possible, I'm not saying this, but maybe it is possible the Cowboys have identified some reason that they don't want Amari Cooper on their team, specifically at the price point that he was at, and that's why they're moving on?
No, I mean, this is
It's not even like a one. It doesn't exist in the world of all finite possibilities.
I mean, maybe the other two can answer better. But what has Amari done that like you perceive to be negative? He's never really complained. He's always been a leader. He's always been a receiver that just puts his head down. I've never seen a receiver celebrate less than Amari just because he's doing his job. It's just play in and play out. He's playing through injuries. So it's like, I mean, what can you get mad at the guy for? Maybe I think the Joneses are confusing getting mad at Kellen Moore with getting mad at Amari. Just because he didn't put up these numbers does not mean that it's Amari's fault. He was still very, very solid in 2021, and that's not his fault.
Yeah, that was as this onion started to unravel all the layers of it, the reporting, the leaking that was coming out was that the Cowboys expected Amari to take a step in 2021, Tony, and cement himself as this top wide receiver, but the targets weren't there. And on the one hand, if you're not going to treat him like a $20 million wide receiver, then don't pay him like a $20 million receiver, so get rid of him. The problem is he's on a $20 million wide receiver contract. So is there some part of you that respects that? Like it's dumb, don't get me wrong, Tony, but is there some party that says, okay, if you're not going to use him at that price point, then he cannot be there for that price point. You should use him at that's the best option. That's the best choice you can make here. But the second best choice, again, in a stupid world, which is where we're living here, move on from him because you're not going to use him that way anyway. I mean, if Tony, you can have like a Hummer, right? Hummer's a cool looking car, but if you're not going to be going off-roading every single week, like what's it going to be doing sitting in your garage, especially with gas prices the way they are today?
Looking at the Amari Cooper situation, they're not where they were at the point where they brought him in. When they brought him in, they had a wide receiver by committee that just wasn't working. It was detriment to Dak Prescott's development. They brought Amari Cooper in, and he was really a bright spot in this offense. But if you're saying that you're going to pay this man $20 million and he needs to have $20 million receiver production, well, then you're going to talk to Dak Prescott, and I don't want that conversation to take place. I don't want Amari Cooper to get force-fed just for the sake of dollar figures. I want Dak Prescott to hit the open receiver. I want everybody to understand that there's one football. And yes, there's CeeDee Lamb, there's Dalton Schultz, there's Michael Gallup, there's Cedric Wilson. There are guys that need to get their touches. And in the grand scheme of the thing, the whole thing in the situation is Dak Prescott, better or worse off for trying to feed Amari Cooper based on price tag? Now, if you're telling me that you want to divvy up that $16 million pie to bring more weapons, to be deeper, offensively across the board, maybe get some offensive line help, then okay, we can have a conversation. But I don't want to do addition by subtraction because I don't think Amari Cooper warranted that type of action there.
Dan, I don't think anybody thinks. I know you're not saying this, Tony, but I don't think anybody thinks this is addition by subtraction. This is purely subtraction. We're all, mathematically in alignment here. So if we qualify this, Dan, as, again, mathematically, however you want to, 2 steps back for the Cowboys. They've taken 2 steps back as a football team today. They are 2 steps worse than they were on Saturday morning. What is necessary to get back to the status quo and then get in front of where they were when this offseason began?
That's a great question, and I really don't think we fully understand just how much of a subtraction this is because we've never seen CeeDee Lamb as the number one. His 2 years in Dallas has been with Amari on the other side, so I mean we don't know what that's going to look like. And Aidan was talking about like maybe they're blaming Amari for Kellen Moore. What I'm worried about is they could be blaming Amari for Dak, and with because Cooper's a good receiver, and we've seen enough football to know that I don't personally believe that there's any decline in his separating ability. So for the Cowboys to be thinking all of a sudden that they can get by without him, it makes me a little bit worried that they may have misevaluated things, similar to what they did when they went into what was the 2018 pre-Amari.
Right. After they cut Dez and signed Allen Hurns and Deontay Thompson, and
that was a terrible misstep, on their part. And I mean, but maybe they have plans. Like they look at the layout of the draft and they see all these, top, good receivers that, someone's going to be there at 24. I mean, if you get someone like a Chris Olave or something that at 24, another, route running specialist that you can come in there that's super cheap. Maybe they're thinking along those lines. I don't know what they're thinking. It worries me because Amari is just not – players of his caliber just aren't readily available. And I don't know. I think they may have misstepped on this one.
It does kind of feel like they're trying to be the smartest people in the room, and overthinking the situation. Aidan, first of all, thank you to Vance Williams for the super chat. Very much appreciate everybody who takes the time to hang out with us. Vance asked this question. We're going to put it to you, and we'll all answer it. Are these moves viewed differently if this is what the guy played by Kevin James in a movie wants? This was a perfect question for you, Aidan. You actually watched Home Team with Kevin James, like one of like 8 people in America to sit down and devote 2 hours to it. But in case anybody doesn't understand, Vance is asking if we look at this move differently, if we feel differently, if this is what Sean Payton wants. If Sean Payton is Cyranoing the Dallas Cowboys, Aidan, and he is telling them, get rid of him now, I want this salary cap space, I haven't had that with New Orleans, some sort of, combination of those words. Are you happy about that? Are you willing to trust Sean Payton that much in 2023, Aidan, assuming that is the case?
I mean, maybe if that's, I can't envision a world where this is what Sean Payton wants, because here's what we know about Sean Payton over these last few years. He loved force feeding Michael Thomas. And if you ask me what's one player on the 2021 Cowboys roster who is most similar to Michael Thomas, it's Amari Cooper. It's a solid route runner who gets open and just is a reliable target. And on the other hand, it's weird that to think that this is a move for 2023, because the salary cap is going to explode in 2023. So it's like, if you want to trade a player and build up capital for 2023, at the very minimum, do it halfway through 2022 when a star receiver gets injured and teams are desperate for a receiver, and that's when you can maximize the value. Not halfway through the offseason when you've been saying Amari Cooper's gone and his value is just at its floor, like what we're seeing now.
Tony, I'll ask you, because you're the person who's most like, if the Cowboys signed Bobby Wagner on Sunday, hypothetically, you're the first person to be like, all right, we're winning the Super Bowl. Like, you would come back the hardest, the fastest among anybody. So that being said, if you knew that this is what Sean Payton wanted, would you feel better? Even if it's not that you would feel good, would you feel better?
No, because I don't love the idea of making chess piece moves for a coach who isn't here, who isn't guaranteed to be here. And on top of that, you're almost kind of punting on another year of Dak Prescott's prime. I want to win now, and I want to do what's best for this team who just came off 12 wins, playoff team who obviously underachieved at 12 wins. And I want to go all in with this team. There's teams across the board in this league making big time moves to go win now. I'm not thinking about 2023. I want to win in 2022.
Dan, I'll change the question for you and ask an entirely different one. We all know the history of the Dallas Cowboys for the last quarter century. We all know that they haven't had repeat playoff seasons since 2006 and 2007. Those weren't even repeat division championship seasons. They should have won the division in 2006. We can relitigate that thing later. Incidentally, it was John Kitna who actually helped the development of Dak Prescott, who played a role in them losing that particular set of hats and t-shirts. But that being said, Dan, we know that they generally tend to crater after they have just a modicum of success. The cratering has begun. Like if you look at seasons where the Cowboys tried to repeat as division champions, again, in recent memory, so we're talking 2008, we're talking 2010, we're talking about 2015, 2017, all of those teams were awesome on paper. All of those teams we looked at and said, okay, this team won the division last year. They loaded up. They added X. They drafted Y. They are going to be even better. This is the first time, I think, in that, kind of weird stretch where they have already immediately worsened their roster. And so it's difficult to trust them. They don't have the benefit of our doubt.
Right. And I think that points to just, the organization in general, and, that they're always trying to do things. And I think that's one thing we have to be, tip our hat towards, Jerry and Steven, is they always are trying. They're always doing things. They're not sitting on their hands by any means. But sometimes they're trying, I don't want to say too hard, because that doesn't sound like a thing, but they're just, they get too cute, or they're just, they overthink things. And I don't really understand what they're doing this offseason. I mean, the Cowboys have a good team, and, they have a defense that's improving, and we have to feel like if the offense can just stay healthy, that's going to be great again. So it's like you don't really need to shake things up too much to, get yourself right back where you were. But yet they're shaking things like crazy. And I don't know. I can't fully understand it. It seems like they are just going for quantity versus quality. And I hope it works.
DJ Dog 31 asking a question for anyone who's with us live. The question: did the Cowboys get an extra 6th-round pick or swap positions with the Browns in the 6th? It is the latter. The Cowboys only received in terms of additional variables or quantities here. The Browns' 5th-round pick. They sent their 6th in exchange for Cleveland's 6th. So it was a pick swap in the 6th round. Aidan, this is not a fun point. So sorry. But Musa says this on the YouTube side of our chat. We are failing Dak almost the way we did Tony, and I still haven't gotten over the end of Tony's era. Dude deserves so much more. Again, we could sit here for hours and pontificate about how the Cowboys failed Tony Romo. And I just tweeted this out actually while we're live, Aidan, how the Cowboys are really kind of screwing over Mike McCarthy. And they've really, put him in this awful compromising position where he has to have success. He has to win this season, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And now they've traded away Amari Cooper. Dak is in that same boat. Like, just because Dak got paid and people like Dak more doesn't mean he's any less in that same boat. Dak's career is on the line. He's got the same playoff record as Tony Romo. He's starting to, again, be put in this like choker, mold. Some of that stuff is dumb, but how is this helping the most important player on your team?
It's not. And I think the most common result that's going to be out of this is going to be like Cowboys take a receiver in like the 1st or the 2nd round. It's already kind of been happening since we knew either Gallup or Cooper was leaving. And it's just like you have so many other needs that, I don't want us to take a receiver in the 1st or 2nd round, but you've almost got it to the point where like that's the only way that Dak can even somewhat benefit from this. And also, didn't we hear that Dak was supposed to be helping with the moves this offseason, that he was going to have a say? Like, there's no way that Dak wanted this. So this, outside of just his development, this almost feels just like a slap in the face to Dak, saying like, okay, we're moving on from Cooper because you couldn't do it with him. Like, I don't know.
Tony, Shane Davis says on YouTube, unpopular opinion here, but I can get behind tearing down the O if they improve the D more. The O hasn't carried them anywhere. My response to that, Shane, would be that defensive success in the NFL is the hardest thing to stick year over year. Offensive success is the much more consistent thing. If you are going to build off of one thing in the NFL, you want it to be the offensive side of the ball. But that being said, this is not the only move that they are attempting to, quote unquote, tear down the roster with, Tony. They're also talking about today, a few hours before the Amari Cooper trade finally happened, there were reports that the Dallas Cowboys gave Lyle Collins permission to seek a trade himself. They may wind up cutting him. So you're talking about now 2 starters who you might move on from at the very least before free agency officially begins, if they cut Lyle or trade him before the new league year begins. Last season, they did return all of their intended offensive starters from 2020. Again, Lyle obviously didn't play at all throughout that season, but this is a lot of shakeup to happen at some important positions. You're talking about maybe right tackle and certainly wide receiver 1. Do you trust that kind? This is not a team, Tony, that again has earned the benefit of the doubt to be able to trust to tear down and rebuild in one fell swoop of an offseason.
It's kind of crazy to think that this team, the way we viewed the wide receiver room going into this last season to what it looks like now, wide receiver looked like an embarrassment of riches. And now it's a top 100 pick, almost lock need at this point. And then you're looking at the offensive line and offensive tackles. I'm related to one of them that played in the NFL. They don't grow on trees. It's really hard to find quality offensive linemen, quality offensive tackles. Teams must be, once they get the green light to speak to Lyle Collins, teams must be banging down the door to see what they can get, especially if they think they can get him for a 5th or a 6th like they got for Amari Cooper. So yes, if you love Terrence Steele and you think Terrence Steele is going to be able to be that right tackle, totally fine. But look at the depth as a whole. Now we're creating needs. This team already had enough needs, and they were already going to take offensive line this draft, and they were probably already going to take some wide receivers, fairly early in this situation. But I don't love the idea of 2 really important positions in the NFL. And some of these positions you pay high valued money. And that's why these guys are moving on, because they've gotten that money. I don't love the idea of creating needs when you already have so many of them.
Dan, do you agree that the Cowboys already had a bit of a leaky ship and then shot some more holes in it this offseason so far?
Well, the Amari one is a big hole to me. I'm not disappointed with everything they've done, with the exception of Cooper. All the talk worries me. Like, if we lose Lawrence, then this is just going to be just a repeat. I'll feel equally sick to my stomach with that. I'm not the Lyle Collins things doesn't worry me at all. I don't have the same views as a lot of people have with terms of what he gives us for what he costs in relation to Terrence Steele. I think the Cowboys need to be a responsible enough organization to be able to find depth at a lower cost. We don't need 3 starting tackles. I know it's nice to have, and in past seasons we actually do need 3 starting tackles. But the Cowboys, if you're not going to start Lyle Collins, and if you got another player that's equally close to him, then I don't want to be paying $10 million for that. There's so many other things they can do with that money. So the Collins trade thing, I'm all for it. I hope, of course, seeing what they got for Cooper, I don't know what they're going to get. Maybe like a 9th rounder for Collins. I don't know. So, but I have no issue with that move. And the other things they're doing too, like Schultz tagging, wasn't expecting it, but I know his value to the team. Happy with that. I don't call that a hole at all. I'm never against keeping good football players. So I guess, I don't know, shooting holes. I just think the Cooper one, it might be a little bit tough to keep afloat than, some people may realize.
Aidan, I want to come back to a question I asked you a little while ago, asking about 1%. Is it possible the Cowboys are the exception? And I think that's kind of what they're sort of banking on. I don't know if you agree. Lavish, I hope it's Lavish. Maybe it's Lavish. Who knows? On YouTube says, good luck Cowboys finding a needle in a haystack in the 5th and 6th round. It does kind of feel like that's what they're doing. Like it kind of feels like there's this level of, call it narcissism, call it arrogance, call it confidence if you want, that they believe we can move on from Amari. We can do this. We know how to do this. We can. It's not stumbling to us. It's purposeful planning and execution. That seems like a really flawed way to strategize and operate at a level this high when it comes to quality among the rest of the NFL.
Yeah, I mean, this deal, like, we'll see the 6 for a 5th and 6th. Don't get it. This deal for the Cowboys is exclusively to clear up cap room because, I mean, Dan, you sent a great tweet out before we got on live, but do you guys know the last 5th round pick who started an entire season or who was a starter for a season, like listed as the starter?
For the Cowboys, last 5th round pick?
For the Cowboys.
Dan, you know the answer, obviously, I'm assuming, based on your tweet.
The best one I could find was Joseph Randall.
That was going to be my guess because he was the starting running back.
The correct answer is Orlando Scandrick, listed on the depth chart as a starter. How many 5th rounders?
2008? Is that
2008? 2008. Oh. How many 5th rounders have made the Pro Bowl since Jerry entered as the GM? Just any Pro Bowl, any 5th rounder.
On the Cowboys or any
on the Cowboys. On the Cowboys.
I don't think there's a single one. I can't think of one.
The answer is 0. This isn't a pick. This trade isn't to get a 5th rounder out of hopes that that 5th rounder is good capital, because the Cowboys are not, at least if we're looking at history, they're not going to do anything with the pick. This trade is exclusively to clear up cap space, and that's just even more depressing.
Well, it is depressing, but Tony, again, forever the optimist. Is there any kind of credit that you can give them because their goal was get rid of this contract? That was if we put it in a vacuum, that was the goal as far as moving on from Amari Cooper. They accomplished that. They did get a team to completely take away his contract. They did get something in return. They did not have to cut Amari. Again, with the lowest of bars, that is a win.
If that's what they're looking to do, then they did it. Congrats. You know what I mean? So, yeah, they were able to unload his contract and get a 5th round pick that might start a game for us. So, yeah, that was a good job.
Okay, so I would like to ask each of you, and if you're with us live, I would like you to participate along. If you're fine, if you're okay, if you're comfortable doing so, it's up to you. Sometimes using the keyboard can be a bit taxing. If you're watching or listening later, you can tweet at us. Tony is on Twitter at Tony_Catalina. Dan is at Danny Phantom24. Aidan is at Aidan1214. I am at RJ Ochoa. Tony, we'll start with you. Your level of trust in the Cowboys, 1 to 10, was what before the Amari Cooper trade, and is what now?
It was 4, and now it's a shaky 2. I mean, I would love to absolutely come on another round table and 100% tell everybody I was wrong. I underestimated them. They made all the correct moves. Egg on my face. I'll even crack an egg on my head right here on this show if they make some great moves, and I'll let y'all judge that. But I'm sitting here and saying, what have they done to prove to us that we can trust what they're going to do? I mean, ultimately, yes, they cleared $16 million in cap space from Amari Cooper. They value Lyle Collins and Terrence Steele equally, so might as well unload that contract as well. what's that mean now? What are they going to do? And if it's for nothing, if it's just to sit on it, it's the trust there. It's just not there. That's what I think ultimately they're going to end up doing.
A 4 and now a shaky 2 is what Tony says. Denise Snyder, Dan says 3, now a 1. Where are you at?
Yeah, I'm not so pessimistic about it because, in terms of roster building, I still view this team as doing pretty good. I like the way they handle certain things, and I would say that heading in prior, I was sitting at an 8, and I've dropped a couple spots. I've dropped a couple spots, just like Tony, but so I'm at a 6 now. Yeah, I mean, I can't really complain about a lot of things they do. I mean, there are things they do that I can't complain about, but there's a lot of things they do, especially compared to other organizations, that I really like. So I'm not going to be too down on it. I want to see how things play out before I'm just like start lighting the torches. But yeah, that's 8-2.
Aidan, the Cowboys traded away Amari Cooper on Saturday, and still at the end of this week are by far and away the best team in the NFC East. And a big reason for that is the Washington Commanders traded for Carson Wentz this week and actually paid more than Dallas had, let Amari Cooper go for, which is really strange to consider the era that we live in. But Musa says 6. That's what Musa was at. Says DQ helps, and now around 4 we'll win the division. So again, I mean, I think we all do believe that Dallas can win the NFC East rather handily. But what are your numbers, Aidan?
Before this trade, I was in the same boat as Dan, where I did feel like all the rumors and all the drama was getting old. But in terms of the actual moves that they were making, I actually agreed with all the moves up to I guess an hour ago. So I was at a 5. Now I've dropped to a 2, because now what I'm realizing is that, oh no, some of those rumors, some of this drama that was bubbling up, that's actually true. It's not all smoke. They're actually willing to make these dumb decisions. And so 5-2.
I think I was at a 5. I'm kind of with you, Dan and Aidan. There is a level of trust. I trust Will McClay. I trust, the Cowboys scouts to find them some talent in a month and a half. I haven't moved. I mean, because, and maybe I'm leaning on the wording of the question, but to your point, Aidan, this was the writing for this was on the wall. This didn't just boom out of nowhere. Whoa, the Cowboys were thinking about trading Amari Cooper. No, because they don't lurk in silence. They're not ninjas. They're super loud. You know what I mean? Everything they do, they talk about. And so we had a week and a half now to kind of get used to this idea. It's just now final is really all it is. And they did manage to at least get something again, as opposed to cutting him. So I don't know. Let's get some closing thoughts, though. Tony, I know we just kind of, established baselines as far as where we're at, but we'll put it like this. What do the Dallas Cowboys have to do as free agency starts and arrives this coming week to impress you or to prove themselves, or however you want to put that? What do the Dallas Cowboys have to do in the next 5-6 days?
Well, ultimately they got rid of Amari Cooper for the money. We keep leaning on the fact they got $16 million for doing so. I want to see them be a little more proactive. And I know Dan says it's a fool's errand to believe that's going to happen because, they haven't shown us to be able to do that. I don't necessarily think they need to go and get a wide receiver to cover up for Amari Cooper in free agency outside of Michael Gallup, because that looks like all reports are that's closer and may happen. But I'm okay with waiting for the draft in that instance. But go be proactive for defense. Go get Dan Quinn some guys to help on the defensive side of the ball. Just show us that you are ready to make that push. Tell us you're not going to mail in another year of Dak Prescott's career, a year that is coming off a 12-5 season where he looked like an early season MVP candidate and some things changed. I still believe that this team has talent. I don't love the idea that they're getting rid of some of these cornerstone pieces or guys that have really helped them kind of establish that reputation a little bit. But at the same time, I need them to show aggressiveness, and I need that to happen as soon as free agency starts.
Dan, what do you need to see?
No, I don't want to see any aggressiveness. I want to see a rerun. I want them to turn around and do exactly what they did last year, and take free agency to value town and just keep adding depth and finding all these good value. Hey, I'm sorry, this is where I'm at. But what I don't want to do is I don't want to see them get rid of DeMarcus Lawrence. So RJ, you spoke we've seen it coming, and you're right. But maybe some of us is not wanting to believe that there's fire with this smoke.
Sure.
And so I don't know. I mean, are we going to lose to Marcus Lawrence? Because there's a lot of smoke there too. So that would make me really sad. But as far as the Cowboys, I just want them to just keep doing what they do in free agency. I'd love to see Jaron Kearse come back. I'd like to see certain players, fill gaps, that they in spots that they need. I wouldn't mind seeing defensive tackle. I forget.
Brent Urban, Carlos Watkins.
Watkins. I'd like to see him return. And then focus on the draft and do what they do best. And that's what I want to see. I don't want to see anything splashy. We don't need to be doing that because remember, everyone's excited about it when it happens, and then we're laughing at them, later. So I don't want to be laughed at. I mean, we're laughed at enough.
Okay, Aidan, so we have two polar extremes here. It's like your classic Instagram text post here. Like, would you rather have a night on the town all dressed up or a night at home with Netflix and popcorn? That's Tony and Dan. What side do you fall on? What do you want to see the Cowboys do in the coming days?
In this analogy, I guess I want to spend an hour out on the town and then I want to come back and watch TV. Because here's what I want. I completely agree. I'd like us to sign some of these key free agents. Specific Gallup now almost seems like a given. Gallup has to be brought back. And then maybe somebody like Kearse, or I guess somebody like Kearse, a guy that two solid players that are going to be good for the team next year. And then what if we spin on Ryan Jensen at the Von Miller? Everybody's throwing out the Bobby Wagner. But once again, the defense wasn't the problem last year. What if we spend a lot of money on an offensive lineman? That honestly, if we could get a guy like Jensen, which I don't think is going to happen, but adding a really solid offensive lineman, I think would be pretty nice.
Since nobody asked, I'll go ahead and offer what I would like to see. I would like to see, Dan, you mentioned that I mentioned it, so this is kind of like the double mention. Shut the hell up, Cowboys. Shut up. I do not want to see things coming from a mile away. That is what I've been saying. Anytime I ask you guys this on any roundtable, what do you want to see? My answer has always been the same. And you know what is kind of stupid about this? Again, I agree with myself on the one hand that, okay, you got something for Amari. You made the decision for whatever dumb reason you want to move on. You got something for him. Good job. Congratulations. Like Tony said. But you moved on from Amari before you locked up Gallup long term. So we are now in the 11th hour with Michael Gallup, where free agency is about to approach. The legal tampering period is about to begin on Monday, and Michael Gallup's a free agent to be. And you mentioned it, Aidan, Michael Gallup has now really, that is cemented. He is at the top of your priority list because you need him back with Amari Cooper gone. Why would you do this now? Why wouldn't you wait until you have Michael Gallup locked up? Because if the four of us, if our job is to get as much money as possible for Michael Gallup and we had an offer on the table, are we not now, upping that offer? Are any one of you disagreeing with that? Why would we sit and chill when we just got more leverage? I don't want to see any kind of talk or chatter or reports or leaks or news or rumors or whatever. I want you to just shut up and work. That is my one thing.
I think first off, I thought our suggestions had to be realistic, and I don't think that qualifies there. I will say this with Gallup. I feel like they have that locked up. I feel like they've got everything they need. They're real close. They have to. So I feel like they've gotten where they need with Gallup. So I don't think that they're going to be all of a sudden Gallup's agent's going to be, well, I want $15 million a year now because Amari's gone. So I feel like that's probably already a done deal. But yeah, the Cowboys, this is never going to stop, RJ. We're always going to hear about what they're doing. I mean, it's fun and it's frustrating and it's, but I don't know. I think you're asking too much.
Well, that is my right. The Dallas Cowboys traded Amari Cooper for a 5th and 6th round pick. They also gave away a 6th round pick. So a pick swap in the 6th round. They now have a brand new 5th round pick. Tony, if a 5th round pick was a free meal to a restaurant, what would it be? What restaurant?
It'd be it'd be Panda Express.
Dude, the Panda disrespect. Oh my gosh, that's wow.
I was gonna say
the
coupon was gonna be half off a burger to McDonald's.
Yeah, seriously, Tony. I mean, give Panda some love. I mean, geez, that was really unfair to Panda Express.
You can get it at the food court. It's not hard to find.
That makes it awesome. It's accessible. I actually think, to stick with Aidan's analogy, I think it's the you remember the Monopoly game that the McDonald's used to have, which was a fraud? There's a great documentary about that, by the way.
Yes.
But it's like when you would get the thing and it was like a free medium order of fries. Like it wasn't like anything cool. It was just a free like medium. Like, and like you're thinking like, when am I going to do? Like and then it's complicated. It's like I have to buy the burger and a drink and then get the fries, and then it like costs basically the same as a meal. It's stupid and it's dumb. 10 points deducted from you, Tony, for a terrible analogy as far as what a 5th round pick would be. Sorry everybody that we had to do this on the weekend. We hope your weekend plans are going well. Dan, are you working around the house? Are you gardening? What do you got going on this weekend?
I have to go assemble something for my mom. So
I saw you actually post about this. I think it was on Facebook. You said you were convinced that she buys things that need assembly just so you will go over.
Yes, I am. Yeah.
Okay.
And that's what I'm doing today.
All right, Aidan, enjoy your hour out with the general public before you return home this evening. Thanks, everybody, for stopping by to join us. Sorry that Amari Cooper is no longer a Dallas Cowboy. Good luck, Amari, in Cleveland. We'll see y'all next time.
Poor Amari Cooper.